I just want to be the best me that I can possibly be, because nobody else can be the best me. When I did that, I found true happiness. I quit comparing myself to people. You know, there's times whenever I went up, 20 pounds. There's times when I've been down, 20, 30 pounds. But my strength has never wavered. My blood, and everything runs good. My blood pressure runs good. My A1C is still under 5, which is insane to think that you're 340 pounds and your A1C is still under 5. But I just don't eat a whole lot of sugar. Very little to no.
Are you able to do that A1C under 5 without any metformin at this point? Is that just straight?
I put off metformin on week 6 of the show.
That's awesome.
It was probably 12 or 14 weeks in.
That's awesome. Like that's a huge indicator of how much healthier you are. In general.
But in my life now, I've been able to do that with so many more people. Even with my stepdad, who did all those things to us, I was able to go look at it from his point of view. Like he grew up that way. That's how his dad was to him. You take all that, what you saw in Vietnam, and then you mix it with cocaine and PCP and whatever all he was on, it turns into a mess, for whoever he's around. So I was able to forgive them, and I was able to let my stepdad know, look, I don't want to be around you. I don't want to hang out with you. My kids will never be around you. But I want you to know that I want you to find God, and that I forgive you for all the things that you did to us, to my brother and myself. I forgive you for what you did to my mom, and I hope that you find God. And he looked me in the eye and said, look, I don't even deserve that. You've already had it. Like for me, I was 500 pounds. I've been cheating my whole life.
You had your cheat. Yeah, you had your cheats all already, right?
I haven't had all my cheat meals. But learning to die to yourself is kind of, it really, it always ties back to God and to Jesus for you, because at the end of the day, Jesus died for us, but the only reason that he could die for us is because he lived for us. Yeah, no, I continue to challenge myself in all those things, and music is the most challenging of all of it. So, for me, music is just part of my life, part of who I am. A lot of people, will say, what are you going to do if your music never makes money again? Which my music is still making me money even to this day. I'm like, man, I don't care. I will write songs if I never make another dime. I will write songs if I never, performed ever again. Like, it's just part of who I am. When I have something that gets me, I'm a creative person. You know how it is. Any kind of creative thing you're doing, whether it's writing kids' books or creating music or going out there and recording a song and producing it. When you're a creative, you have to create. It's just the way that it is.
And welcome to the Apex Lifestyles Podcast. I'm your host, Bobgdmd, and I'm here as always with my co-host,
Dennis V. What's going on today, Bob? Big day.
Yeah, we have a great day today. We have an awesome guest. I'm really excited to talk to him. You've spoken with him before, but ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome to the show Big Vinny, season 12, Biggest Loser, and he's a finalist on The Biggest Loser, and we'll dig into that a little bit. But he's also a storied country artist as well. So we'll talk a lot about that too. And he's a children's author as well. So we'll talk about that.
Welcome to the show, Big Vinny. Nice to have you.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. I like to call myself the overall attraction. For one, I wear overalls whenever I'm on stage and stuff. And two, I try to do a little bit of everything. I'm not great at anything, but I'm okay at a lot of stuff. So.
Yeah, jack of all trades and master of none, as they say, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so the rest of it says, but a jack of all is better than a master of one.
There you go. There it is. Right on, man. So, let's dig in. I remember, I used to be an avid Biggest Loser fan, and I think, part of the reason why we have this podcast is because Dennis and I have gone through our own transformations, and man, you went through a huge one. And we talk a lot about that. We've had Dr. Brett Osborne on the channel before. He did the book Get Serious, and he's a wealth of knowledge in that arena. But let's dig in. So season 12, take us there. How did you end up deciding that you wanted to be a contestant on The Biggest Loser? That's a big deal, right?
Yeah, no, it was a big deal for me. I actually went out to LA to audition for Dumb and Dumber 2 the first time they were going to have Dumb and Dumber 2. And Cindy Fairley, who is the Fairley brothers' sister, she was my lawyer out there, and she had me come out, and I went and auditioned, and she was basically like, look, I think you're great. I think you're funny. I think you could have a real career in this, out here in LA, but you're gonna need to go lose some weight. I weighed right at 500 pounds at the time. And I was like, oh, no, who cares? I'll be the big funny fat guy. I'll be Chris Farley, or I'll be John Candy, or whatever. She goes, yeah, I'm like 300 pounds,
Vinny, how tall are you?
Right at 6 foot.
Oh wow, yeah. So you're definitely like in the powerlifter zone, and I saw you powerlifting on social this past week.
Yeah.
You were throwing up some heavy weight, 405 on the incline bench.
Yeah.
Quite impressive, man.
Thank
I haven't
you.
done that since college days myself, but yeah. Anyway, I digress. I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Oh no, you're all good. Don't worry, I'll talk plenty about myself lifting weights because I love doing it. But no, so I was kind of upset. She told me I need to lose some weight, and what she said was, she goes, "I think you could be a star in this, but in order to do that, I think that you're going to have to go out there and lose weight because you're too big. Right now you're so big, you'll be, the fat guy that runs through in a Speedo, or you'll be the funny, fat guy that gets slapped in the belly at the party, or you do a keg stand, or you stage dive and nobody catches you. Those kind of slapstick things." She's like, "I think you can do that if you want to do that." She goes, "But I would like to see you in the Kevin James roles and the Chris Farley roles and things like that." And I really had no experience in acting. I just knew that I was a character, and but anyway, so I got upset about it. I went home. I was like, "All right, well, I got to go lose some weight. I'm not gonna be able to be in this movie, but I'll be in something else, And so I was like, I got to start losing some weight. Well, that exact same night, I had this really bad knot come up on my leg, and it's funny because I think so many times we start making plans, and then God says, "Hang on a second, I got a different plan for you." And,
Yeah, right.
So I was flying home Super Bowl Sunday from L.A., and all I could think about was I got to get home, got to make my cheese dip, got to do all this other stuff. My leg was killing me. I looked it up on WebMD, and I decided it was a hernia in my leg.
There you go. Were you right?
In my mind, that's what it was. And because I wasn't going to accept the fact that it was, that it on the other side of WebMD, it said it was cancer. So I'm like, well, it's not cancer.
It's always
Anyway,
that,
so
right?
I go in, and I land, and then my then girlfriend, who became my first wife, we're divorced but still friends. She basically took me directly to the emergency room and made me go in. I get into the emergency room. Now I'm ticked off because I want to watch football and all this other stuff. And I got two women telling me what to do. Then all of a sudden, a female doctor walks in, and I was like, "I got a hernia. Get it sewed up. We got to get back to the party." And she goes, "Yeah, I don't think you got a hernia in your leg." And I was like, "That's what it is." I looked it up on WebMD. She goes, "Yeah, I'm going to run some tests." And she runs all these tests. She comes back. She goes, "Hey, do you know you're diabetic?" I was like, "I did not know I'm diabetic." She goes, "Yeah, your blood sugar is over 500. And I was like, "Is that bad?" Because I didn't have a clue what that meant. She
It was over 500, man.
My A1C was like 10 or 11, something like that. She
No
goes,
kidding.
It's pretty bad. And I was like, "All right." She said, I said, "So what do I got to do? I got to lose some weight." I said, "I'm already supposed to be losing weight." She goes, "No, you got to go into surgery right now. That big old knot in your leg is called cellulitis. And it's basically like an ant farm inside your leg, and there's all this bacteria that's in there feeding on the sugar in your body. And she goes, if we'd have waited 2 more days, this would have probably turned into gangrene, and you would have to probably cut your leg off. And hopefully not other stuff down there by that part of my leg." So, so I was blessed to go in there and do that and get it. Well, on the 6th day while I was in there, I get a call from a friend named Dana DeSilvio, and she calls me, and she was on the first season of Biggest Loser. And she says, "Vinny, they're coming to audition people for Biggest Loser in Nashville. You got to go." I'm like, "I ain't going on that stupid show. They just make fun of fat people." And I hung up the phone, And about that time, I was sitting there, I was like, and I looked at my then girlfriend. I said, "Can you believe?" I said, "They want me to go out here and be on some stupid reality TV show. I mean, here I am trying to figure out how I'm going to lose all this weight so I can be in the movies. And they want me to go on this stupid reality show making fun of fat people." And I kind of got that look. You're like, "You idiot," Then I kind of, this is the way God's telling me to go lose this weight. And so sure enough, I went and auditioned and ended up getting on the show. And I did not know that I was in for the hardest 6 months of my life. Physically, not mentally, but physically the hardest 6 months of my life. Pretty hard mentally too, but I've been through a lot of stuff in my life.
So that show goes for 6 months. Is that what happens?
Yeah. So we started on June 1st and we ended on December 13th.
So, but you're at the ranch for how long? I mean, you were a finalist, so you got pretty deep into it.
Basically 4 months without coming home. Because I was Final Four, so.
Yeah, you don't really see that when you're watching the show.
Yeah.
You can't really tell that's that.
Because it's like 13 weeks, it was like 13 TV weeks. But
right.
To film those 13 weeks took us, almost 6 months.
It's crazy.
So what was your biggest challenge in the show? I mean, this show's called Apex Lifestyles, and one of the things that we talk about is reaching your apex in life.
Yeah.
And what we've learned is on your way to your apex, there's obstacles that come along the way, and you just discussed one of them, the surgery to have. But on the show, what was your challenge, and how did you get through?
I think the biggest challenge for me was you only got to basically be social with the people that were there at the ranch. which you didn't know any of those people until you got there. And I'm a very social person. You know, I enjoy my friends, I enjoy my family, I enjoy people. And so only having those, 15 or so people that were in my life at the time was tough. Not being able to see my girlfriend at the time. She had a son that was basically like my stepson. Not being able to see my friends. My career was on hold. I was out with Toby Keith before that. I signed with Toby Keith whenever I was 22, almost 23 years old. And I'd been on tour all the way up until that point. I'd been out touring, for 5-6 years, whatever it was, and not being able to go play shows, not having that, admiration from the crowd. It's different. When you're used to doing live stuff, it's way different when you're on a camera and nobody's there cheering your name and blah, blah, blah.
Oh, yeah.
So it took me a minute to get that. But what really helped me and what really got me was I didn't want to tell my whole story. I didn't want to tell about the child abuse and all the things that I had been through as a kid because I was afraid it would make me look weak. And about week 3 was when I really broke down, which was, 6 or 7 or 8 weeks in, week 3. And the NFL players come and work out with us. Tim Tebow worked out with us that day. And I just remember having this switch in my brain. I'm like, man, you're not out here to be famous. You're not out here to get on TV. You're not out here to, make your career better. You're out here to get your health right, because if you don't, you're going to die. You weren't going to make it to 30 years old. And I was 27 when I got there, turned 28 while I was out there. And it was just like that switch happened for me. And having to face the fact that I had to forgive my mom was pretty tough. And that took me a while to do. But I was blessed because they had this, I guess, the mental health coach there, whatever. His name was Dr. Hogan, so I called him Hulk all the time. But anyways, I was sitting there talking with him, and he's like, man, why don't you talk about your mom? I'm like, oh, what about my mom? I love my mom. She's great. He goes, well, according to the test we had you take before you started this thing, it's like whatever the test you take to go to the military is, the ASVAB or some kind of test. And they ask you the same question like 50 different ways and a ton of different questions. It's like 200, 300 questions, whatever it is. And they ask you all these questions. They said, according to your test, you love women, you respect women, but you don't trust women. And I'm like, I don't remember answering any question about the way I thought about women. He goes, well, what we do is we give you these scenarios and we give you 5 options to choose from. And depending on the option you take, we can kind of read it out. I was like, yeah, but if you only ask me, it's like, well, we ask the same question in different ways, different scenarios, different things. And we take the evaluation of that. I'm like, well, I love my mom. That was probably like week 1, week 2. And then week 3, I just broke down. I was like, well, let me tell you something. My mom let me get beat by my stepdad. Let me go through all this. Why should I forgive her? And the doctor looked at me and said, well, he said, you're a Christian, right? And I said, yeah. He goes, well, why should God forgive you for putting Jesus on the cross? And I'm like, I didn't put Jesus on the cross. He's like, did you ever sin? I said, yeah. He goes, what did he die for? I said, our sins. He goes, well, then you might as well have been the one hammering those nails in yourself or hitting him with the cat of 9 tails or anything else, because he died for your sins. He died for my sins. He died for all of our sins. So you're just as guilty as the Roman soldiers that were up there doing it to him. And I was like, well, now I feel bad. But anyway, so I was kind of like, okay. And then he made me do this exercise. And I thought this was a crucial point in my life, period. He said, I want you to take yourself. He goes, because perspective is a really hard thing to gain and it's an easy thing to lose. He goes, I want you to put yourself in your mom's shoes. And I'm like, okay. He goes, you're mad at her because she didn't protect you. She didn't, take you away from all this pain and all this suffering you were going through. But let's figure out where she started. Then I tell the story about my mom, and she was 3 when her mom died, giving birth to my aunt. She was 15 when she had her first kid, 18 when she had me, 19 when she had her sister. She grew up dirt poor, literally had dirt floor in the house, had nothing, grew up with nothing. And, basically he said what he thinks she did was she found a guy, because he was a drug dealer, that had money, that could put food in your belly, roof over your head. She's a pretty woman, pretty redheaded woman, so she was desired by a lot of men. She got married 5 or 6 times. I can't remember, a lot of times. And he said probably in her mind, the best thing she could do is make sure you had food in your belly and a roof over your head. And when I got to think about it, he goes, now, was she getting beat just like y'all were? I'm like, oh, yeah, worse than we were. He goes, so if you put yourself in her position, she had already been through all that stuff in her life, and she was still going through the exact same thing you were going through at the time. And I was like, whew. And he said, and who was there to protect her when she was a kid? Who was there to keep all those things from happening to her, And I was just like, well, now I feel even worse, I didn't forgive her right away, because it's hard to put yourself in that. But in my life now, I've been able to do that with so many more people. Even my stepdad, who did all those things to us, I was able to go look at it from his point of view. Like he grew up that way. That's how his dad was to him. He was in Vietnam. He had been through all these things. They didn't know what PTSD was back then. And then you take all that, what you saw in Vietnam, and then you mix it with cocaine and PCP and whatever all he was on, that turns into a mess, for whoever he's around. So I was able to forgive them, and I was able to let my stepdad know, look, I don't want to be around you. I don't want to hang out with you. My kids won't ever be around you. But I want you to know that I want you to find God, and that I forgive you for all the things that you did to us, to my brother and myself. I forgive you for what you did to my mom, and I hope that you find God. And, he looked me in the eye and said, look, I don't even deserve that. And I said, we don't deserve God's love. We don't deserve God, sacrificing his son. I can tell you, I love everybody I meet. I really do. I have nothing but love in my heart. And whoever meets me, they don't have to gain my love and respect. It's theirs, and they can either keep it or lose it. But they don't have to gain it, because I feel like, why should I disrespect you or not love you from the second I meet you? And I give you that love, and you can either keep it or you can throw it away. That's up to you. But I want to give you that because God does that for us, and if we're supposed to be made in the image of God and we're supposed to be like God, then we need to look at things the way God would. And God loved us, and he still loves us even when we make mistakes, and he forgives us. And it says there's only one unforgivable sin in the Bible, So for me, I try to live my life on a very forgiving basis and understand that people make mistakes, people make wrong choices. I've made plenty myself, and then I just try to be as good a person as I can.
Well, what's interesting, that's what therapy's about, is that you have somebody with that outside perspective that can challenge you and help you kind of bring it together. And, just a kind of follow-up question, what I asked before, and I think I know the answer to it. When you think that the time away that you're spending away from, friends, family, or whatever, do you think, no offense to those people, everybody is a distraction at that point in your life as you're trying to reach your goals? Do you think it was important for you to remove any sort of distraction so you could focus and get healthy?
Absolutely. There's a quote that I can't remember the guy that said it, but he said, you need to disappear for 6 months. And I was gone for 6 months. You need to disappear for 6 months, and you need to go focus on waking up every day, doing your workouts, eating right, doing all these things. Now, obviously, if you got a family, you got kids, you got, a life, you got bills to pay, it ain't like you can just go disappear. But what that means is you need to say, hey, I'm not going out to the bars. I'm not going out to eat. I'm not going to go indulge in anything for 6 months. A lot of people, as soon as they get on a diet, when can I get my first cheat meal? Well, you don't need a cheat meal. You've already had it. Like for me, I was 500 pounds. But I've been cheating my whole life.
You had your cheat. Yeah, you had your cheats already, right?
I haven't had all my cheat meals. And so, but learning to die to yourself is kind of, it really, when, it always ties back to God and to Jesus for me, because at the end of the day, Jesus died for us, but the only reason that he could die for us is because he lived for us, is because he woke up every day and lived a perfect life, so he could be that perfect sacrifice. So all the time we focus on, Jesus died for your sins. Well, yeah, but he also had to live for your sins. And he had to go through all the temptations. It says in the Bible that he went through all the same temptations, all the same things that we go through on a daily basis. And obviously, even when the devil tried to tempt him, it wasn't on the mountain, what was it, on the synagogue or whatever it was that he was on, and he said, bow to me and all this can be yours, which I always thought was funny. I'm like, how are you trying to give him what's already his, But anyway, I thought you tempted him with the wrong thing. But anyway, not trying to help the devil, and you just let him know he's an idiot. But yeah, it's definitely, you got to shut yourself off to other things. If you want to go out there and you want to lose weight, if you want to build a business, if you want to do any of these things in your life, you're going to have to cut some people out. It doesn't mean you're cutting them out forever. It doesn't mean you don't love them. It doesn't mean that you don't want them to succeed. But unless they're part of the plan, they may not get to be there for that 5 or 6 months, and you just have to tell them, hey, I love you. I'm just really focused. You're not ignoring them. You're not saying, hey, don't call me for 6 months. You're just saying, hey, man, I just want you to know I'm going to be loaded up for the next 6 months. You probably won't hear from me or see me. Feel free to call, but if I'm rushed, don't think it's anything on you, and you can have those conversations. And as you become, a more mature adult, when you're younger, you don't understand that stuff. But like me and Jared Blake, we're best friends. We probably don't ever go a week without talking. But if we did, we would know, well, that guy, he must be super busy because he hasn't called. The last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we went up to Minnesota together. And ever since we've been back from Minnesota, we played those shows up there. We haven't been on the phone together. We're still best friends, but we just have had, I've been gone to, I went to Illinois the next week. I went to North Carolina the week after that. And it wasn't like I was gone for one day. I'm gone for the whole week, so I haven't been able to be in that. But, like I said, I'm working on some big things right now. I'm trying to get my resort rocking and rolling even more. I'm trying to get my wife's business up and going. She has a health and wellness business, so that's what we're focused on. And then Jared, his wife keeps him so busy. It ain't even his fault. I just blame his wife. It's Jen. Dang it, Jen, give me my friend back. So.
Yeah. So I have a burning question, like when you look at that, back to The Biggest Loser, I used to watch that. So I was, I'm about 5'10", and I was well north of 400 pounds and had a 64-inch waist and dropped 200 pounds and all of that. But I used to watch it when I was a big dude and try to get inspired.
Right.
Sometimes, the week one, people are dropping like 30 pounds in a week, 40 pounds in a week.
Yeah.
How for me, a great week would have been like 5 pounds. You know what I mean?
So you got to remember this is TV weeks. Again, like I said, it's 13 total weeks on TV, which was 6 months. So, it's really double or triple the amount of time. Some weeks are 14, 15, 16 days. Some weeks are 7 days. If they want to have, if they're, also you got to remember they have to play by the rules on the show. But they can manipulate. They can say, hey, we're going to weigh in again in 5 days. So somebody that just had a massive weight loss probably ain't going to have another massive weight loss the very next week. Correct. After John on my season, John never didn't have massive weight loss. The only week we did, he was like a 140 IQ. He knew what everybody was going to lose every week. It was impressive. I won't ruin it for you, but he probably wins. So
gotcha.
But anyways, he was a great guy. He got played. He gets played out to be the villain. But John, he was a great guy to me. He played the game a little bit. I didn't mind people playing the game. I just kind of realized a week or two in, I'm like, man, I'm not here to play a game. I'm here to figure it out.
To save your life, right? Yeah.
But the show was awesome. It gets a bad rap. You go look it up. And there's people that get mad, at the end of the show because they gain their weight back. But that's not just in the show. That's on any weight loss.
That's in life.
It doesn't. Sure. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It don't matter. You go to Jenny Craig. All these people that are on Ozempic right now, I urged and told them, I was like, guys, there is no easy way out. So when you're doing this and you're cutting and you're making, I'm not even hungry. I don't even eat. I'm like, yeah, but your body needs food on a cellular level in order to keep your muscle mass up, in order to keep your brain functioning the right way. All these things, you need food for that. And so by just cutting your calories down so low that you lose weight, you're also cutting your metabolism. You're losing the muscle mass. And when you're 25 to 30, maybe it don't matter that much. But when you get to 40 and 50,
it's big
losing
deal.
Losing that muscle mass in an early age is a terrible thing because it's hard to gain after that. I remember when I first come off Biggest Loser, man, the first couple of years, I was able to put on about 8 to 10 pounds of muscle a year. And that was me working out hard, eating right every single day, doing everything right. Of lean muscle mass. Obviously I could put on 20 pounds of muscle over the next month if I just gorged food and pumped iron, but lean muscle mass, I could put on about 8 to 10 pounds in a year. And that was, like I said, taking creatine, taking all the proper BCAAs, EAAs. Actually, I switched to that. Going to the gym every day, getting proper rest, drinking over a gallon of water a day, doing all those things, 8 to 10 pounds. And now in a year, if I can gain 3 to 5 pounds in a year, now part of that's because I've reached a pretty max level of potential.
You're not a newbie anymore.
Yeah, without doing, extracurricular activities, steroids and things like that. So, there's not a, the ceiling is however hard you're willing to work. But you have to understand that if you're not going to do the steroids and stuff, if you want to get stronger, you're going to have to eat more food. You have to be at a calorie surplus. So all these people that they're like, oh yeah, I'm trying to lean out, but get stronger at the same time. I'm like, well,
it's not possible.
Well, it's possible, but there's a max.
Yeah, if you're a newbie.
There's a max limit on that, and it's for more new people that are just doing it,
Right.
You get a guy that's been doing it for 20 years, that ain't happening.
Yeah, it's really hard. It's real hard. So I want to segue into your music and
congratulations on your weight loss. That's incredible.
Thanks, great. Man. And Dennis too. Like Dennis, 70 pounds him too. So like.
I see that jawline. You got that Bruce Willis look going on.
It was about 5 months, and awesome. Wife and I woke up 4:30 every morning, and still doing it. Like it's a way of life, which is really cool. What
was your diet? Did you go Mediterranean macros, or
macros, hitting the protein, fats, carbs, hitting the right, and then
prioritizing protein.
Yep,
making sure you hit that level every day.
And it just. And for the most part, cut out red meat and just eat it. It's eating right. That's it. It's unbelievable. And making sure
they give red meat such a bad name, and it's really probably the best for you when it comes to keeping your muscle and losing weight and everything else. But we don't have to get into all that. But
I want to be cognizant of your time too. So I want to segue.
Time.
So I want to segue into music a little bit, but I want to tie the two together, right?
Yeah.
So when someone goes through and you went through a massive transformation, like what was the total weight loss that you went through from the time you entered the Biggest Loser to the time you were done when you guys do that marathon run and all that?
Yeah. So on the show, I lost 186 pounds. However,
That's awesome.
on in the time from when I got home and went and had to have surgery, and I was right at 500 pounds until the end of Biggest Loser, I was at 242. So it was
Fantastic, man.
It was 258 pounds that I lost total on the show.
Right.
Well,
So
total,
like one of the,
total in that in that year, basically, it was basically a year because it would have been February. I guess it would have been the first back then. It was the first Sunday in February, Super Bowl Sunday. Whenever I found out how big I was, and then I had diabetes, and then I pretty much immediately went to the diabetic diet at first, which what they call the diabetic diet from the doctor is not really that great. There's a lot better ways to get, and once I figured it out, I was good. Of course, they put me on metformin, which, it will help you drop some weight.
a little bit. Yeah. Yep, for sure.
Keep your blood sugar, you can't, it's hard to burn fat when your blood sugar's up. When your glucose levels are high, your blood sugar is high. You're not gonna burn fat nearly as effectively,
Yeah, 100%.
Some people say you won't burn it all, but when you're 500 pounds, you just get up and walk, you're going to burn some fat. I promise.
You're going to burn fat for sure.
Yeah.
So I guess the big question I have is, so when you go through that kind of a transformation, at least for me, I had this kind of inverse body dysmorphia thing where like it took a long time for me to not see myself as a fat guy. Yeah. And even, my reflection and, walking by a window on the street, I would get a little taken aback by that. I wouldn't know that was me.
Yeah.
Or a shadow on the ground. It wouldn't kind of make put two and two together. And I kind of want you to tie that in, if you could, with how does that affect you performing, with the persona that you had before the Biggest Loser, and now you have a new persona that with a new body, new everything. Like, how does that play with your mind,
Well, the good thing is I've spent years, trying to get bigger, but trying to keep it as little fat as possible and do as much muscle as possible. And, I weigh about 340 pounds right now, but I can still wear the pants that I wore at the finale of Biggest Loser. So
there you
my
go.
chest and shoulders and everything else has continued to get bigger. My waist has pretty much stayed the same. Now, my belly's a little bigger than it was, obviously, at the end of the show. But as far as my waistline, where I wear my pants and stuff, is still about the same. What I would say is this. I went through those same things. Whenever I first lost the weight, all I could see was the loose skin hanging everywhere. Then I got the loose skin cut off after 2 years of keeping it off because I wanted to make sure I was going to, be dedicated and do the right thing. After 2 years of keeping it off, I got the skin surgery, got that removed, and then all I could see was the stretch marks and the scars, and so that body dysmorphia was there. Then I started looking at bodybuilding. I was like, man, I want to do bodybuilding. And I got into that with a buddy of mine named Seth, who phenomenal teacher. And he really changed the way that I worked out because I was coming in every day and I would either run or pull a tire. I'd pull a tire for a mile or I'd run for 2 miles before I would start lifting, and then I'd lift for, an hour and a half. I mean, I was in there just like I was on Biggest Loser, 3, 4, 5 hours a day at least.
Totally different way to work out when you're doing bodybuilding versus, that HIIT
and
style.
What he did was he come in and he goes, okay, how much are you eating right now? And I was like, I'm eating 2,400 calories a day. It's what I ate every day on Biggest Loser, 2,400 calories. I'm sticking to that.
At 300 pounds?
I was at 270 probably at this point.
Yeah, okay, all right.
This is 2 years after the show.
That's kind of low still.
But I hadn't put on the real, like the real muscle.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course, at the end, obviously you do a sweat out and all that other stuff trying to win. So, 242 was really more like 262. But either way,
yeah.
So I go in there and I'm sitting there with him, and this guy walks up to me, and I don't really know him. I met him a couple times at the gym. He's always kind of commenting on how hard I work. Because, I'm going there. I would go hardcore for 3-4 hours, like nonstop. People were like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just getting in here. And 1 minute I'd be lifting weights, and I'd be over here on the rower. Then I'd go to the stair climber. Then I'd be outside flipping tires. Then I'd run around the building 5 or 10 times. I just wanted to be like, I can't never gain this weight back because my mind still told me I was that fat guy, or I had the potential to go back and be that fat guy. So he walks up to me one day and he says, "Man, you're the hardest worker I've ever seen." I'm like, "I know, man. Ain't nobody going to outwork me." He's like, "Yeah." He goes, "You're also the dumbest worker I've ever seen." I'm like, "What?"
Oh.
He goes, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Why are you doing that?" He goes, "Do you want to look like me?" He goes, "Because I haven't seen you make no changes in the 2 years that I've known you." And I'm sitting there, I'm like, dude, I don't even know this guy. Now he's big. He's a big bodybuilder guy, you know. Of course, he was on some juice and stuff, but looked great, phenomenal, shredded. And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, I'd rather look like you. He goes, well, good. He goes, here's what I want you to do. He goes, give me 1 month. He goes, I'm not going to charge you anything, nothing else. He goes, I just see your work ethic you have. Give me 1 month. And I'm like, okay. He goes, here's what you're going to do. This is what you're going to eat. It was like 3,200 calories a day. I'm like, dude, I can't eat that. If I eat that, I'm going to get fat. He's like, you're not going to get fat. Trust me. Put me on these macros. He said, this is how much protein you're getting. He gave me, broke down every single meal, exactly how much I was eating, everything. Then all I had to do was make it. He goes, and then you're going to come in. He goes, every morning I want you to get up. I want you to just go walk for 20 minutes. And I was like, okay. He goes, and then about 9 o'clock, meet me here at the gym and we'll do a 45-minute workout. And then we're going to walk on the treadmill or elliptical, whatever, for 20 to 25 minutes afterwards. And that's it. So a total of maybe 2 hours, not even a full 2 hours. And I was like, okay. He goes, and then after that, relax, make sure you're getting 8 hours of sleep, 6 to 8. And I was like, okay. Well, I gained back up to about 270, 275. And in the month that I worked out with him, at first, when I first started eating that food, my weight started to go up a little bit because I was eating way more carbs than I was used to because I was taking in all this basmati white rice, as part of the bodybuilder diet. And then the next thing you know, it's like I was peeing every 5 minutes. I had to pee again, had to pee again, had to pee. I'm like, man, why am I peeing so much? Now I was drinking a gallon and a half of water. And next thing
dumping off all the extra water in there too.
Yeah, the scale starts jumping down 5 pounds, 3 pounds, 2 pounds. I got all the way down to 238 pounds, which was lower than I got to on Biggest Loser, but it was actually no sweat out. It was like real deal weight. I was like, holy crap, dude. I look great. You can start seeing the outline of my six-pack and all this. And then the body dysmorphia hit the different way because I started comparing myself to those bodybuilders. I'm like, wow, I don't look like those guys. How do I get like that? And then, of course, I was like, man, maybe I need to do some steroids. Maybe I need to do this or do that. And I decided not to. And I started, got back to where, man, I was just as strong as all those guys were. I mean, I was throwing up weights. I'm like, how come I can throw up all these weights, but I don't look like them, Obviously, there's different body types and all that kind of stuff. But I struggled with that body dysmorphia. And it wasn't until I met, I got divorced from my first wife, who was the girl that was on the show. I met my next wife. And we weren't married yet, but she was a bodybuilder. And she had competed and she had won, everything in Tennessee. And she had been qualified for a pro card and went to junior nationals and all that kind of stuff. And she basically looked at me. She goes, yeah, she goes, every now and then you need to have something outside of the norm, on your food. I literally ate egg whites every morning with raspberries and half a cup of oatmeal. And every single snack, my next snack would be 6 ounces of grilled chicken with half a cup of basmati white rice. And then my lunch would be 8 ounces of some kind of meat with half a cup of basmati white rice. And my fourth meal would be, what I do? Either Greek yogurt with some blueberries or some kind of meat, 4 to 6 ounces and a little bit of, white rice. And then my fifth meal, my dinner would usually be salmon and greens. So I'd have a big old thing, could be 8 to 10, ounces of salmon, big old thing of spinach. And every now and then I'd treat myself and throw some blueberries in there or something like that. And I'd scarf all that down. And then, later on that night, I would drink a whole thing of BCAAs. And then I'd usually either eat some Greek yogurt or some cottage cheese about 2 hours before bed.
Yeah, very, very clean diet, man.
It was just straight to it every time. And obviously we didn't really count vegetables. I could have any kind of vegetables I wanted in that time. I'm not a huge vegetable fan because, most vegetables are, poison, in my opinion. Unless you're getting them organic, the real deal, and for sure they're organic. They've been sprayed with all kinds of crap. But I dealt with that. And then I was like, man, I'm not strong enough. And then I started looking at strongman competitions. I started competing in those kind of things and powerlifting. Then I saw guys that were bench pressing 500 and 600 pounds and guys that were, doing this. And I kind of always compared myself. And then there's a quote that says, comparison is the thief of joy. And I really fell in love with that because I'm like, I shouldn't care what anybody else is doing. What they eat doesn't make me better. What they work out in the gym or don't work out in the gym doesn't make me any better. So I quit comparing myself to people and I said, you know what? I'm just going to be the best me that I can possibly be because nobody else can be the best me. I'm the only one that can be the best me. And when I did that, I found true happiness. I quit comparing myself to people There's times whenever I've went up, 20 pounds. There's times when I've been down, 20, 30 pounds. But my strength has never wavered. My blood, and everything runs good. My blood pressure runs good. My A1C is still under 5, which is insane to think that you're 340 pounds and your A1C is still under 5. But I just don't eat a whole lot of sugar. Very little to no sugar.
Are you able to do that A1C under 5 without any metformin at this point? Is
Oh
that
yeah,
just straight?
I got off
awesome.
metformin on week 6 of the show.
That's awesome,
was
man.
Probably 12 or 14 weeks in.
That's awesome. Like that's a huge indicator of how much healthier you are.
Oh yeah.
In general, yeah, for sure.
And it's
I
nice that
I can tell by my feet. My feet stayed cracked up and sore all the time. When I had that high blood sugar, my diabetes and stuff, I mean, all the time. Because anybody can get some dry feet or whatever, but I'm talking about I would have big cracks in the back of my feet, and I would have just pain in my feet for no reason, So that's thank God I don't have to deal with that no more.
It's nice to say, I mean, you are very determined, resilient, and you definitely hit your goals. And it sounds like you continue to challenge yourself. Let's hear about the music.
Yeah, no, I continue to challenge myself in all those things, and music is the most challenging of all of it. So, for me, music is just part of my life, part of who I am. A lot of people, will say, what are you going to do if your music never makes money again? Which my music is still making me money even to this day. I'm like, man, I don't care. I will write songs if I never make another dime. I will write songs if I never, performed ever again. Like, that's just part of who I am. When I have something that hits me, I'm a creative person. You know how it is. I mean, any kind of creative thing you're doing, whether it's writing kids' books or creating music or going out there and recording a song and producing it. When you're a creative, you have to create. That's just the way that it is. And for me, it was always my therapy session. Music has always been therapy for me, whether it be sitting down and riding the back road and listening to some songs to get over a broken heart when you're a teenager, or if it's hanging out with your buddies and sitting on the tailgate and letting the party songs play, whatever it is that that gets you, or if it's just, man, there's some songs that if you lost your dad, you can sit there and listen to, and it's weird because they're sad songs, but you feel better. I almost think it's like, oh, I'm not the only one that this has happened to. So it's like, it oddly makes you feel better to know you're not alone in the fact that you've lost your dad or your mom or your uncle or your grandma or whatever, or your best friend. So, but I love it. I'm going to always continue to do it. I'm still out there touring now, even after all these years. Don't get as many shows as I used to get. Obviously there's a new batch of artists that come in every single year. So you're applying for a lot less places to play now too, because AI and DJs and all this other stuff. Which the DJs did it to us. And when the DJs come in, they're like, "Oh, we'll come and perform for $500."
Yeah, now
I can't even leave my driveway for $500. You know what I mean? Like each band member costs me $500 if I'm leaving the house. And so the DJs come in like, "Oh, we'll do it for $500." Well, now there's these AI tools that are coming out where a guy could go in a program, country mixed with hip hop, dance feel, with a redneck vibe, and it's going to put together a playlist and it's going to create the entire thing for them. And they don't even have to pay that DJ to be there now. And they could just hire, pay one of the employees that's got a big personality to run around and talk on stage and be like, "Come on, guys, let's," So it's just amazing to see where music is going. There's less places to go play now because budgets are lower, especially with the economy where it's at right now. Budgets are lower. So, you got to go out there and really work and really stay determined if you want to get those shows and get out there to play. So
you've had a lot of experience in the music industry, and also as you've transformed and done a lot of great things. Very tough question. What is some advice you'd give your younger self that you wish you knew years ago?
It's always my favorite piece of advice. And I tell this to every artist that I work with now is enjoy the moments while you're in them. Like that what's the Miley Cyrus song, "It's the Climb." It really is like, the moments. I think for me, I was so blessed to get to be on tour with Toby Keith. I was so blessed to be signed by Toby and get to be mentored by him and learn from a guy that sold 50, 60 million records and had 25, 30 number ones and all that. Like, not everybody gets to do that. But during the moment, all I could think about was, I got to get my number one. I got to make sure that I'm working harder than everybody else. I got to do all these other things. And I didn't really enjoy the moment as much as I wish I would have. I wish I would have taken time to be like, "Dude, good job, bud. You came to Nashville with nothing but a dream, and you got the record deal, and you toured with the biggest name in country music at the time. You got to be in a movie. You got to be on TV shows. You were nominated for a CMT award. Like, I look back at that stuff now and I'm super proud. But in the moment, I was just like, what's next? What's next? What's next? And that's one of the things I learned from Biggest Loser was enjoy those times while you're in them. Celebrate those little wins. Like when I would get on that scale and I would see John or any of these guys, like I said, back to that comparison thing, they lose, 15, 20 pounds. I'm like, dude, I only lost 6, Little did I know I was actually eating all my food and doing things the right way, and other people were not doing that. But like I said, that's why you got to never compare yourself. And as long as you know that you're doing your best, I think that's where you got to live at. And so for me, I just tell them, enjoy the moments while you're in them. Even enjoy the failures. Like when somebody tells you no, it's okay. It doesn't mean no. It just means not right now. Go out there and work harder and go out there and continue to prove yourself. And there's people that are going to say no to you that are wrong, and they won't be able to admit they're wrong they'll always think they were right if you quit. If when the voice said no to Morgan Wallen and Luke Combs, if they had quit, then then the voice was right. But since they didn't quit, now the voice is like, oh yeah, well we had them on our show. They made the top 30.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
Then we kicked them off because we didn't think they were good enough. I'm like, and they were wrong, So you get to show that. I think for me, being 500 pounds and getting a record deal in Nashville was unheard of at the time. I always kind of joke now and say, before there was Jelly Roll, there was Big Vinny. And, I was dancing and rapping and, 500 pounds and being on that. I broke every mold you could possibly think of in Nashville. I was too big. I was rapping in country music. I was breakdancing on the stage. Like, there was nothing about me that was supposed to make it. And it took a guy like Toby Keith, a visionary like Toby Keith, to be like, nah, I see something special here. And because of that, I feel like my journey, even though I, never made it to being at the top level, my journey has helped other people realize that, hey, you can do it too. And I think it was the biggest thing that changed for me on Biggest Loser. When I first got out there, I realized that everything in my life I did because I'm going to prove you wrong. I told you so. I told you I could do it. It was all about me and self-glorification. And I realized when I was out there, it's like, no, man, you're supposed to be telling people and being the example to show them that they can do it too. That if they're really willing to stick it and do the work. So one of my quotes that I constantly use is, you're worth the things you're willing to work for. So many people want things to be great for them and they want things to happen, but they don't want to go do the work that it takes to make it happen. They don't want to sacrifice the things it takes to make it happen. They want to drive a new truck right now, even though if they get that new truck, they're going to have to work, 20 extra hours a week in order to pay for that truck, meaning they're not going to get to go perform their music, or they're not going to get to work on their business or any of these other things. So you have to be willing to sacrifice some of the luxuries of life. You have to be willing to go out there and do it. Now, I'm not telling you, if you're watching this, you got a wife and kids at home, that is your first priority. God and Jesus is your first priority. Your second priority is going to be is making sure you keep the family in God and Jesus, and take care of your family first. So don't think that I'm saying, oh, leave your family behind and go out there and do whatever you want. That ain't what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you're going to have to get some sleepless nights, and you're going to have to spend some time doing things that are going to be uncomfortable in order for you to reach whatever goal it is, whether it's you're wanting to be the best house flipper or if you're wanting to be a musician.
Yeah. So what's the, that's really good advice, Vinny. I love that. And, what's the future hold for you? Like, musically? Yeah. What's on the horizon for everybody?
I'm always going to continue to record music and all that. I've been, pretty sought after as of late to kind of be in the A&R, the artist and repertoire, finding new artists, working with those artists, helping them develop their songs. I've got a couple of different labels that have talked to me about doing that, and I'm interested in doing it because I love working with younger folks. And because I was so young whenever I made it and whenever I got my chance, just knowing that some of these people are going to come out here that have the talent, and they're not going to have the wherewithal to stay and understand that it's going to take 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And people will always say to me, well, it didn't take you that long. I'm like, I started working and living on my own when I was 14. I had to become an adult at a very young age because my mom and them weren't there. So in y'all's mind, I was only working for a few years in Nashville, but in my mind, I started working at a very young age just to survive in life and be able to go after the things that I wanted. So, hopefully helping those new artists, working with them. I think that's what the future holds for me, helping write songs with them. Still touring, still playing. I'm never going to stop doing that. Probably do a lot more acoustic shows and songwriter type things as opposed to full band, massive shows. But like I said, I think it's going to be helping the next generation of artists, figure out how to get going in there.
Awesome. And
Bob, if I have a great question, I have to ask him because I love hip hop.
Me too.
And And we've had DMC in here, Parrish from EPMD, Capadonna from Wu-Tang. Now, country, a little cross collaboration. Who's somebody you'd want to perform with?
Oh man, there's so many of them.
Because I'll tell you, so one of my former students is Joyner Lucas.
Oh wow!
And Joyner Lucas did that collab with Jelly Roll that they just got nominated for a VMA.
No, I mean, he's incredible. I mean, he's amazing. I think for me, I'm kind of nostalgic. You know, I'm old school in a way. I think it would be so cool to work with Will Smith. I think it would be cool to work, you know, who wouldn't want to do something with Eminem if you could? You know, I don't think mine and his music are nothing alike, you know, and I think our stories are similar. You know, we both went through a lot of pain and heartache growing up. I just think that we view the world differently because of it. You know, I view the world and say, hey, let me be a light and let me shine bright in this world so that other people don't have to go through what I went through. He kind of tells his story from the standpoint of, you know, I'm mad that this happened to me. And so, you know, but I would still love to come. I think he's the greatest lyricist maybe of all time. I don't know if there's a better 100%. Lyricist than him. Dax, if you've seen Dax.
Dax, I love. Dax is unbelievable.
Dude,
yeah.
He's amazing. So he might be right there with Eminem for me.
Dax was just on the concert here.
If I had to pick one artist to do a collaboration with, it would probably be Will Smith. I just think it would be so cool to work with him. I don't want him to smack me in the face. Of course, if he smacked me in the face, he did it on the ground.
He'd have something else coming, right?
I know that nobody else in the history of their world would say Will Smith would be their number one collaboration. I just feel like me and him would create something cool. I don't know. Like I said, if I could meet one person and spend a day with them, this question gets asked a lot, and it has nothing to do with music. But if I had one person, and not talking about Jesus or my dad coming back to life or anything like that, one person that's alive on this earth living today, that's a celebrity, I would choose to spend my day with Sylvester Stallone.
Oh yeah,
I would love to sit and not be like, hey, let's take a quick picture. No, like literally sit there and just be like, man, I just want to talk to you and hear your stories and learn from you. I just think he's one of the most incredible human beings that the planet's ever known, because his story is incredible. The things he overcome is incredible. The way he's created the art that he's created and still creating at 78 years old or whatever he is. But that's who I choose to spend my day with. if I got to pick a celebrity. So
yeah, that's a very cool one.
And his brother Frank Stallone's a great guitar player. So there you go.
Unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. He played on a lot of those soundtracks to the movies. So wrapping it up, I mean, thank you so much for coming. How can people reach out and follow you? Give them a litany, and I'll put it in the comments before we launch it.
B-I-G-G, I'm too big for one G. So Big, B-I-G-G, Vinny, V-I-N-N-Y, official. And if you tap that in, it's my website, it's my TikTok, it's my Instagram, it's my Facebook, it's everything. Big Vinny official. So nice. I would love to have anybody that wants to follow me. If you got questions, feel free to send them. I'm not going to say I'm an expert on everything, but anything that I can help you with, I'll either help you with it or I'll point you in the direction of somebody that can.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming in.
I appreciate y'all having me and let me be a part of this, man. Y'all got something great going. So, and I appreciate the questions being, fun and different,
Yeah, it's always a fun. We do our homework before we bring anyone in, so we know how to go about it. But this has been a real fun one for me, and I like talking to somebody who's had a fellow who's done the same kind of things that Dennis and I have done. Anything else you want to add, Dennis?
You're a tremendous person, and you've definitely had your challenges and obstacles early, but you didn't roll over and give up. You have worked through hard work, grit, mindset, resilience, you name it, you've done it.
Well, I appreciate it.
Blessed to have you on the show. And I definitely don't want this to be a one-time deal because...
No, I want to come back for more. And I'd like to leave everybody with this. Every single time that you overcome something and you think that, oh man, I've got it, I figured it out, I promise you, at every level, there's another devil. And every time you accomplish something and every time you think you got it licked, there's going to be another thing come up. There's going to be a health scare. There's going to be money troubles. There's going to be a car, blow up on you. There's going to be something happen. So you have to repetitively be positive You have to repetitively put things in your brain that keep you that way, because I promise you the devil will always attack. And when you're highly favored by God, meaning you're supposed to be out there influencing people the way that y'all are in this podcast. You're out there trying to help people, live better lives and live the apex life and all that kind of stuff. Anytime that you're highly favored by God, you're also highly favored by the devil. The devil don't want people who are not going to be good at influencing people, and God's looking for leaders that can be influencers as well. And not influencers like on TikTok. I mean, I guess that's part of it. But just people that know how to lead. And the way that I think I've always led is just by example, just going out there and doing it. Whenever I was the captain of the football team, I just went out there. I was the first one out there. I was the last one off the field. I wasn't going to let nobody outdo me. So just know that there's always going to be another thing coming. Stay positive and keep loving and keep being a good person, and good things that keep happening. I promise.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Vinny. And Dennis, as always.
Go time.